Okay, girlfriend, this is going to be a rambly lifer update. I have no notes, and this is just all so fresh in my head. And I have to talk to you about it because you've been talking to me about it, and I have not been able to figure this out for the longest time. It's been freaking killing me. You have no idea how much distress and confusion and frustration this whole topic has brought me. But I really think I figured it out. And it's because of this community, because you guys talk to me and you're honest with me and you're kind, and I appreciate that and I care. All right, so let's get to it. Welcome to the Chalene Show. This is a more personal episode. I'm talking about my podcast and some things that have changed, and people who were unhappy and people who were complaining, and me just trying to figure out what's going on? I'm just trying to figure things out. Okay, so let's get to it. So let's see. Where do I even begin? About 2.5 years ago, I believe, in 2021, I think. Yeah. I started a Patreon. A Patreon is a paid podcast, and it's what a lot of creators do, where they put content that is either too personal, or it's the next tier for their content. Some Patreon creators, that's where they just post video. I mean, so all creators do it differently, but a lot of the podcasters who I am friends with, they used it for their okay, this is the stuff where I'm going to talk about personal stuff that doesn't really relate to my show, which my show is about health and fitness, or my show is about celebrity news, or my show is about whatever. And so I loved that idea, because usually once a week, probably once a week on the Chalene Show, I would do a personal episode, and I love doing it. But there were things that I didn't put on that. I called it a lifer update or a CarSmart update. I didn't put in those shows because my friends could listen, or I don't know. They were just I'm always thinking about, well, I kind of have to filter myself because I don't know who's going to be listening to this. But I loved doing those episodes, and they were pretty popular. And so I started the Patreon, and it was great because it was at a time when we were going through so much mentally, physically, from a family standpoint. We were going through some really hard stuff. And, it was great to have a Patreon because I just knew certain family members would never listen. It gave me a place to vent. It felt like a diary. And no one else had the key. And I could write, or I could say, I could confess. It was literally I would, to my Patreon, I would just drive in the car or be crying on my bed, and I would just talk about honestly what was frustrating me and who I wanted to pinch their head off, and it was very cathartic. And then I ended up having a botched plastic surgery, and again, it was a place for me to cry sometimes or vent, to tell people what I was really going through, and a lot of times it was a downer, because it was personal stuff, but it was great because it didn't have a negative impact on the show, because it was only those people who really wanted to know that personal stuff were on the Patreon. It was it's a very, very small community, but it gave me an outlet. And I've said many times, it was and is my therapy. And I continued to do personal shows on the public Chalene Show. And then I started doing my podcast on video, like what I'm doing right now, and posting, the regular show shows up on just the regular Chalene Show, on whatever podcast app you're listening to, right? Whether it's Apple or Spotify or whatever. And then the video version would show up on YouTube. And I guess I started that in February, I think. Yeah, in February. And right away, we started seeing the numbers declining of podcast listeners, but specifically on the shows that related to my personal stuff. And also about that time, things started going really well in our lives. We're empty nesters. We started traveling the world. And I just chalked it up to there's no drama. So it's kind of boring. I don't know if you've ever called a friend and you're hey, what's going on? They're oh, everything's good. There's nothing there. You know what I mean? And so while I would kind of tell people what we had done in the last week, I just think people were it's not that entertaining because there's nothing dramatic or going on. And do I really do people really want to hear about like, oh, wow, we're staying in another nice hotel and oh, look at us, we're going to Positano. You know what I mean? So I was like, I get it. Like I understand why these episodes are not as popular right now because there's just no drama. And I am never, ever going to invent drama. I'm just not. I don't like drama for the sake of drama anyways. I always want people like, can we just be more chill? Like I think, I'm going to go on a little rant right now. I think most people, I tell my therapist this, and it's just true. I think most people make too big of a freaking deal about everything. I do. I think people make things about themselves and they act like the world's out to get them. And I have no tolerance for it. It bugs the shit out of me, if I'm being honest. You know what I'm talking about. It's like that person who's saying like, oh, this person hurt me, or I can't believe everyone did. Like, it's just like, simmer down. You know, take a look at yourself. Also look at the nature of the situation. If it's not about you, if it's out of your control, if there's nothing you can do about it, then why are you giving it space in your head? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's always bugged me. So I'm never going to be that person who just makes up things or like makes a bigger deal out of things than they should. I'm just not. So again, I just saw the numbers of those personal episodes kind of declining. And the ones that were doing better, this is also about time of like Ozempic, and a lot of women were reaching out to me because, you know, a lot of ladies are like my age or a little bit younger. And I was talking about hormone replacement therapy, weight loss, all the things that I think a lot of women struggle with from like age 35 to 55. And that's my demographic. Like, those are my girls. Hey, what's going on? And I started talking about it and realizing and hearing from a lot of women, like, they didn't know anything about this. I'm like, what? Like, my own girlfriends are like, hadn't even thought about getting their hormones tested. And so that just took on kind of a, you know, for me, I get on these rabbit holes and I just wanted to know everything about it. And I wanted to help so many people, kind of like when I got into like really into ADHD and really into like helping women understand like what they need to know about before they had plastic surgery. I can get, I don't want to say vigilant about these things, but I get obsessed. Facts. I get obsessed. And I'm not going to change that. I actually like that about myself. So there's that. My husband today, we're in a hotel. And so when we're in a hotel, we spend a lot of time together. Like, there's no time alone. And I really need my time alone. I like the fact that I can be in the bathroom and I can start watching a YouTube video about, like today, I was watching a YouTube video about magnesium with Dr. Peter Attia. And then I got a text from Sierra about the new Nicki Minaj album, which is so good. Like, I gag. It is so good. And then I started listening to that. And then I went to TikTok and I started like watching people's reviews of the Nicki Minaj new album. And then I got another person sent me a video asking about supplements. And then I started watching those videos. And Brett's like, he said, your brain is really eclectic. Like, in the last 5 minutes, Chalene, you've switched all these different random topics. I'm like, my brain, this is called ADHD brain. And this is called stop paying attention to what I'm listening to. But that's kind of how my brain works. And I do like to geek out on things. And I do like to go on these deep dives. And so it was like, I got really excited and I just went on these deep dives with these topics on the show. And then I started, on occasion, people would comment inside our pod squad. So that's the Facebook group, right, where people connect who listen to the show. It's actually like a really cool community because it's, like I said, it's like women 35 to 55, and we kind of help each other out, and it's funny, and it's lighthearted, and the only thing that's really important to me is that people not drag each other. Like, it's okay if you're kind of rude to me, but sometimes if you're rude to me, that's not a good idea because then people come and drag you. I love that some of you are like, oh no, you said what about Chalene? I love that. I love you so much. You don't even know. But I don't like that sometimes someone's just offering like their thoughts and they're polite about it. And then people are like, you know, beat them up. And so when that happens, I usually am like, delete the post, because I know for a lot of people, like, social media makes people unalive themselves. And you just don't know. Like, you know, someone's trying to be like politely offer feedback, and, you know, and then there's somebody else who's just trying to, you know, step in and say like, you know, watch your mouth or whatever. And then people pile on. And then, can you imagine like waking up and like feeling like all these people are coming for you? I'm in the public eye. I put myself in this position, so I know it comes with the territory. But I really have a protective nature when that happens to other people. Like even on my Instagram page, like if somebody makes a rude comment, I might respond back to it if it gets buried in the comments. But once other people see it and they start coming for that person, I delete it. Because I'm like, I never want someone, even if they're, a cat profile and their page is private, you just don't want, like, why risk tearing someone down who's weak anyways? Because only a weak person would come for you. You know what I mean? Like would make a rude anonymous comment. That's a weak person. So like, I don't know. I have empathy for those people. Some people call them haters. I just call them weak individuals who need attention. And so you don't want to give them what they want. Anyways, people started commenting in the pod squad, like, there's something off about the show, the Chalene show. And I'm like, and so I wanted to know, like, what? And people were like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel as personal. And at first I was like, huh. I'm going to tell you, I have this all figured out now. So I'm just going to I'm going to tell you what's been going on. So number one, I started doing video. And the videos are structured. Because I stopped doing as much of the just personal content slowly, not in February, but like over the last several months, I started doing less and less of it because it was doing worse and worse for all the reasons I said. And so then I stopped doing as much personal content and I started like really doing these deep dives. And when I'm doing a deep dive on like a topic, it's got to be buttoned up, I can't ramble. It doesn't help anybody. Like I have a responsibility to do the research for you, to be your bossy big sister, and to break the topics down, help you understand like what you need to know, and then let you form your own decision. I'm never going to tell you what to do. That's your business. I don't believe in telling people what to do, except my family and my husband. But, they're structured. And I would put all of my notes together and I would have expert clips, and that made the show feel more polished. Yeah, that's it. Like it started to feel more polished. And people told me that they missed just hanging out with me keeping them company. That in the past, even when I would do like kind of a deep dive, I was a little bit more rambly. I don't know what else to call it. Less structured, less prepared. Yeah, I'd have like, I was doing research, but like my shows weren't as structured. And I think part of it is because like I was showing up on video and I was like, I have an obligation to make this like really top notch. But I think that made my brand, like I literally say, I make it messy. Make it messy. Like that's my brand. And I wasn't making the show wasn't as messy. It was cleaned up. And I think people missed the ADHD, she just lost her train of thought, and like things that just jump into my head and me just saying them, which I wasn't doing in those deep topics, right? And so that happened. Then here's the other major thing that happened. We started using titles that were SEO'd, search engine optimized. So like up until February, I would say like, okay, so in this episode, I'm talking about how hard it is to have a family member with Alzheimer's. So let's just title it Dealing with a Family Member with Alzheimer's, right? And then once we started working with an SEO expert and we started like really incorporating that as part of our team, then our titles became more SEO'd. And then even when it was a personal episode, we would give it like an SEO title. And I think a lot of you at that point had stopped listening based on titles, and you're like, I don't want to know about perimenopause. I don't want to know about zone 2 cardio. I just want to hang out with you. And so even when it was an episode where it was more like hanging out with each other, because the title was SEO'd, you would look at the title and go like, oh, this isn't one of those, rambly Chilling with Chalene episodes. So you just skipped it. So I think people started skipping the episodes. And because then, even though I was still doing Life for Updates, like at least one a month, sometimes two a month, sometimes more, people were like, you stopped doing the Life for Updates. So I'm like, no, I still am. Like, why are people saying this? I don't get it. And then I realized, oh, it's because people aren't listening to those episodes because we're giving them like SEO titles. So one thing that I've just done is I've gone back through all of our audio episodes and I've given them the title that I would have given it if I hadn't cared about search engine optimization. Now, I have to say that's kind of I don't know what's going to happen there, because podcasting is a business. It's an important business center for me. And it's also, as I'm sure you know, because I say it all the time, this is like if I could do nothing else, it would just be this. Like if Brett said, you have to give up everything. Pick one thing. I'd pick this. Because I am that passionate about it. Because I get so much out of it. It's the truth. Like, it's certainly not our biggest moneymaker by any stretch, but it's the community. Like I said, it feels like therapy. It's, I don't know how to describe it. It's like reassuring. You know when you have a conversation with someone, they're like, yes, oh my God, yes. And how good that feels versus when someone goes, oh, no, that's not like it. It's not like that for me. Have you ever been with someone who like literally everything you say, they do say the opposite, or like, no, that's not me. And you're just like, okay, so I guess you don't want to connect. I guess you're trying not to connect. Well, when you podcast, people find you and your show because they have that in common with you. They're like, yeah, oh my God, yes, that's me. That is me. Like, you're married to my husband. Oh my God, I'm you and he's me. Like, and so that feels really good when it's amplified with the podcast. So for very personal, self-gratifying reasons, the podcast gives me so much freaking joy. And I've included all of that stuff in my deep dives. I just think I've made it a little too polished. So where am I? So what am I going to do about all this? Okay, but first I want to back up. Sorry, ADHD. I want to back up and say, shout out to those of you in this community who had written me really long, detailed observations. And it's because of you. Like, because I could not figure this out. I'm like, I don't get it. And it's because some of you are so freaking smart and you're like, here's what I think it is. And I'm like, oh my God, that's it. That's completely it. That is completely it. And okay, so now that I have it all figured out, like what has happened, right? Like you have to do that. You have to sometimes sit back and not fight negative feedback because it's not negative. It's just feedback. Like a couple of my friends were like, don't read any of that. It's just, it's just going to make you feel bad. That's just negative feedback. I'm like, if it's not negative, it's just feedback. And it's important because if this community feels like something's off, I have to listen because this is my community. Like I am one of you. And so I need to understand, and I might be too close to it. And so I just want to say thank you to those of you who like literally, I don't know how long it took you like to write these like really long dissertations of like, here's when, and here's what I think happened. And I'm like, literally you just solved it. You just solved my Rubik's Cube. Well, you helped me figure out what happened. And then all day, well, for like the last 3 days, I've been like, okay, so then what do I do about this, right? Because like I said, the podcast is a business. We need to get downloads. The personal shows haven't been as popular. So what do I do? I don't know long term, but I have committed to doing the following. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I mean, I can always change my mind if it doesn't work, right? But I've committed to going back to one episode a week that is just a little more rambly, a little more personal, a little bit more all over the place so we can just hang out. I think a lot of us are sick of having to take in information and knowledge and like learn more and figure out more things that we're doing wrong and more things that like, we're supposed to be doing a different way. And I think a lot of us just want someone to keep us company and just chat. I get in the car sometimes. I'm like, I wish I had like just who could I call right now and they could just keep me company. Like I could just like hear them tell me a story, like what's going on in their life. And I think you need that mix because of course you do, because I do. And I just hope the numbers reflect that. The numbers aren't about, it's not about ego, but the numbers tell us what people like. So I'm really hoping that right now you will commit to checking back in once a week. And I'm not even telling you have to check in for both episodes. I'm still going to do 2 episodes a week. And I haven't decided yet if on a certain, my shows come out on Wednesday and Friday. I haven't decided yet if the personal one is going to be on Wednesday or on Friday. I feel like it needs to be on Wednesdays because Patreon comes out every Saturday. And yeah, and that's not going to change. Like the thing is with Patreon is it's always been things that don't feel appropriate for a personal reason for me to put on the regular show. The same way you have certain conversations with even your closest girlfriends. There's some where you can go all the way there and you never have to worry that she's going to have a glass of wine and spill your tea. You can't trust that bitch. You know what I'm saying? And then there's that other person who you're like, I could tell them the juiciest piece of gossip and I know it's in the vault. I know they are just here to listen. They're not here to judge me. They're not here to repeat it. And so that's, I really do love having that option. That's never changed. That's always been that way. And the personal shows here on the Chalene Show, I think it makes most sense for them to come out on Wednesdays. Because if it were me, I wouldn't want one on Friday. If you're a Patreon member, you wouldn't want one on Friday and on Saturday. You'd want that space, right? Am I right? So I'm thinking that's the way we're going to do it. And I still am going to do the deep dives, but I guess I want to know from you, do you want the deep dives a little messier? And what does that exactly mean? I'm not really sure. Someone had commented, I'm just going to be completely transparent. A few people were like, the shows have become very salesy. I'm like, we've always had the same number of sponsors. I've never had a sponsor that is someone who we just signed. I mean, I listen to so many other podcasts and I'm like, I cannot believe they're just reading this shit. They don't use that. They don't wear that. They don't what? Weird things. I won't ever do that. We only ever bring on podcast sponsors because it's something that's in my water bottle or something that I literally regularly use. And so that's never changed. So that it's not that I want to deny that feedback. Obviously you can tell I'm accepting the feedback, even some of which was, a little tough to read. But the part about being salesy, I don't think anything's changed. We do have ads on the Chalene Show, and that's what pays for the show. It's a business. And people who want to ad free, they can go watch it right now on YouTube. On YouTube, there are no ads. And on Patreon, there are no ads at the moment. Actually, I guess if on YouTube, if you have a regular YouTube, a free YouTube account, I guess there probably are ads, but they're not ours. They're just ads that show up. That's the way of the world. I mean, all these streaming platforms, if you want it for free, you get ads. So this just is what it is. I'm trying to think if there's any other feedback about the way I've been doing the show since I got on YouTube. I think it's just that they're more polished because I still interject my own stories. I still interject my own opinion. I still tell you and put lots of cool videos of what we're doing. So some of you completely disagreed with those who said the show is less personal. Some of you are like, it's so much more personal. Now I'm watching on YouTube and I'm seeing all these clips and I can see where she's doing it. But either way, I think the sentiment is what I just described. So there's no reason for me to go over it again. And I just need to know from you because I'm still going to do those deep dive episodes. I'm going to do at least one a week and it's going to be on YouTube. So I think that means I will probably only do one YouTube episode a week. One Chalene Show episode will also be on YouTube and the regular show audio. That'll be the deep dive one. And then the personal ones, from time to time, I guess I'll put on YouTube. I just don't know. But for sure, am I making sense at all? Is this making sense? It's making sense in my mind. I just don't know if, do we need a Venn diagram right now? So I'm always going to do 2 episodes a week. But I'm thinking for a while, I'd like to see if I can win you back your trust and we can hang out together again. But yeah, I want to read your feedback. Be nice, be kind. There's no need to be rude. There's no need to be sassy. And don't come for each other. Just be nice, all right? Thanks for your feedback. Thanks for being here. Thanks for trusting me. Thanks for being a friend, even if it's on the internet or over the airwaves or on video. Listen, I love you. I mean it. And I'll talk to you soon.